Hey, FCC fans, you could show your pride in a whole new way with the new FCC Visa debit card from First Financial Bank. First Financial is the exclusive banking partner of FCC, and they are just as committed to this club as you and I are. Not only does the card look awesome, but it also gets you discounts on FCC tickets and merch. Find out how to get yours and to see the account terms and conditions at bankatfirst.com/FC Cincinnati. First Financial Bank, member FDIC. Hey, what's going on, CSTers? What is this weird feeling I'm experiencing right now? Oh, that's right. I got to prepare tonight for a show where we get to talk about an FC Cincinnati win. Unbelievable. It's been a while, but the good news is we get to chat about a victory tonight, folks. Glad you're with us here on this live edition of Cincinnati Soccer Talk. I'm Subs. Yes, FC Cincinnati gets the win over the weekend, 1-0 over the Montreal Impact. So we'll recap that match. And, of course, it's a big week for the Orange and Blue because you got two matches, Atlanta United and the Chicago Fire. So it's going to be a busy week for fans of the Orange and Blue. So we're going to be talking a little bit about the Atlanta United match tonight, and we'll be previewing Chicago Fire a little bit later on this week in March to Match Day. And, of course, we're going to talk about the Major League Soccer standings towards the end of the year. Now that the regular season is wrapping up, we want to discuss the teams that are surprising us, both good and bad, in the current MLS standings. So make sure you stick around. Make sure you get in touch with us. Feedback at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. And, of course, we are monitoring the chats all evening long. All right, let's welcome in my cast of characters this week. We welcome back the Wolfman, Bill Wolf. Bill, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. How could I be doing bad? It's been so long since we could taste victory, and it tastes sweet.
Yes, it does. That is about the most excited I've ever heard Bill on this show. Yeah, and that's a good thing, right, Bill?
Yeah. It's you starve long enough, then you got to appreciate it when it comes.
Yes, absolutely. Glad to have you back on the show, Bill. Looking forward to getting your thoughts on what happened over the weekend with the Orange and Blue. Let's also welcome back to the show Chris Asbrock. Chris, how you been, buddy?
Oh, I've been fantastic, Soups. It's like Bill was saying, we're coming back, doing a show after victory. I mean, it's been seems like years since we've experienced a victory. But no, in all seriousness, I'm doing great. Like Bill said, you can't be bad right now. It's great. Tasting victory. Love it.
Yes, it's been quite a while. I think we're looking at July. The last time FC Cincinnati won, and that was against the Houston Dynamo, if my memory serves correctly. So, glad to have you back, Chris. So I'm also glad to welcome back to the show. He's the man behind the numbers, folks. The one and only Ken Hetker. Ken, how you been, buddy?
Buongiorno.
Yeah.
Oui. Monsieur. I was in Montreal. I saw the victory. It was great, and you can probably hear it in my voice as I'm speaking. So, nice to be back on the show. Can't wait to talk about the game, actually, in Montreal a little bit. So,
you do realize that you made the trip to Montreal. FC Cincinnati got the points. That now means you need to be an away season ticket holder for next year.
Put me on payroll. Jeff Birding, I'll be the cheapest thing you could buy.
Well, before we get into the match, I want to kind of get into that experience you had there in Montreal. You made the trip up north. What was the stadium atmosphere like? What was everything around the stadium like there in the city?
Well, the city, it's located a little ways away, so it's kind of like, unfortunately, the best comparison, and maybe it's an unfair comparison, it's kind of like map free. It's built in the same kind of steel stand stadium, where everybody could stomp their feet and make noise. So, but it looks a lot better. I mean, it just has a lot better appearance to it. It's right in Olympic Park. So you have a nice backdrop with the Olympic Stadium and where the torch and all that comes out. So it's really in a neat environment from that aspect. It's the neighborhood around it. I think it's it's the old Olympic Park. So they redo it, and the housing it's from 1976. So it's a little bit different. The funny thing is we met up at a soccer bar, like 8 of us, and we walk in there, and it's the away Montreal fans soccer, or the Montreal Ultra soccer fans bar, and we walk in, and I was like, what are we doing here? And the good thing is they're not doing so well either. So there was only like 6 of them, and all 6 of them were from the United States there because they went to college with Daniel Lovitz. So they were giving us a whole bunch of crap because their friend was the starting, was it right back or left back for Montreal, and it was a good time.
It sounds like it. You're definitely hoarse.
Oh yeah. The best part was we'll get into it. I mean, it was a good time.
Well, we're glad you had fun. We're glad you made it back across the border. If you're just joining us late, FC Cincinnati winning 1-0 over the Montreal Impact. We've already been corrected on the show in the chat room, gents. I had it wrong.
Chicago.
Said their last win was the Dynamo. It was the Chicago Fire. So thank you, Jay, who YouTube Jay has here at CST, our fan cam guy, pointing it out. Sorry, Jay. Yes, that was a lot. Either way, it was a long time ago, right? So the FC Cincinnati gets the win 1-0. And really, Chris, it started off, right away from the get-go.
I mean, I was in the kitchen. I can tell you, I was in the kitchen. I was, starting to make some dinner. I was watching over, looking over the TV, and I caught a quick glance, and I saw Alan Cruz put that ball in, and I dropped everything. I was running around. I couldn't believe it. I mean, it's, to get the game going so early and so fast like they did. I mean, you're putting yourself in such a great spot, and it seems like every single game that we've played so far, we've been behind the 8 ball going, as the match continues to progress. And I mean, goodness gracious, 25 seconds in, I think it was the official number, we're already up on top, and it's Alan Cruz again, who, I believe it's the second time he's scored in the first minute. What more can you ask for? It's, that's one heck of a start. And I know Ron Jans had to have been just ecstatic, starting off like that.
And of course, the last time that he did that was, believe it or not, in that last win against the Chicago Fire. So, yeah. Quick start, Bill, which is just what the doctor ordered.
Yeah, for sure. Of course, we've also seen this in the past where we do get early goals and then just struggle to hold the game together. We've had this tendency in the 40th minute and in the last 10 minutes of the game to give up goals, and it seems like we wear down pretty easy. We start to lose focus a little bit. I think some of it we can say maybe a little luck in this game for sure. There definitely was some opportunities for them to score that they didn't take advantage of. For sure, TD came up huge in like the 38th or 39th minute. I don't remember when that was. That earned his paycheck for the month, I think. And beyond that, obviously a tactics change, and I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit. But we were not doing the high press style that we've seen from Johan and Ron Jans up to this point. Definitely a change, a much more bunker type of feel to it with a counter, and the possession numbers reflect that. And we also didn't seem to lose our focus nor near the end of the halves, so that was good.
Yeah, you were there, Ken, firsthand. Probably had a great view of the tactical side of things that you don't normally get from the TV side. What were you seeing there in Montreal?
Well, to go back to the goal, this was the funniest thing is kickoff occurs and we're up there. There's like 30 people from FCC. So we travel well and everybody's looking at us. All these little kids are down in the section, and we start off with no one likes us. That's okay. Blah, blah, blah. We're chanting away. And the next thing we know is the ball's in the back of the net. And I mean, we're like, did that go in? And we see Alan Cruz go run into the corner and we're screaming. And Dave Sherman just looks at the Montreal fans and go, you guys are terrible. You let us score in 25 seconds or whatever. We just had a blast. So it was shocking. We didn't know what to make of it almost. That was probably and I know Bill was at the Seattle game. It was almost like that first goal when Bertoni scores and you're like, did that really just happen? And it was so delayed, and we were just jumping around like fools. So that was what it felt like there with us. As far as tactics, Bill said it best, and Ron Yount, and it's almost a question I have of, that was an ugly game. I mean, it was ugly for us. Montreal didn't play well. Ron, you could tell he was saying we needed a win. It was basically, we're going to play the tactic that gives us the best chance to win. And maybe at the end of this segment, my question is that the best way to go moving forward when you're trying to build something? You always try and win. I get it, but I wonder if this was the right thing at the end of the day, long term. So it was a fun time up there. Ugly game all the way around. Montreal played bad. We played bad, but we made it into an ugly game, and they did too physically. So
Alan Cruz with the goal ends up on the MLS Team of the Week. So congrats to him. Outside of that, again, it was just a 1-0 result. Was there anything else particularly in this match? I know Wasson had the red card, which we'll talk about here in a minute, Chris, but did anything else really stand out to you?
Well, the fact that, they hung tight and didn't give up, any goals. It's a first clean sheet, and I can't remember off the top of my head how long it's been. So I guess the fact that they didn't give up a goal, that's a victory in and of itself. I know Ken was just talking about, the style of playing, the tactics and everything. Hell, at this point, a win's a win. I don't really care about building right now. I shouldn't say that all, but I'm saying it sarcastically, but just the taste of victory is just great because we haven't experienced it much. But I think the fact that these guys never gave up and they continued to play, and they played extremely hard, and they did not give up a goal. When I know there was the one right on the doorstep where TT made a huge save. It's those kind of things that that really stuck out to me in terms of glaring glaring situations in the game. Is they hung tight defensively, and they were bending but didn't break, and I think that's that shows a lot there.
I think that will go a little overlooked, Bill, right? I mean, the fact that everybody's so excited about the win, but really the clean sheet, like Chris said, I mean, that's a huge deal because it has been quite a while for a team that has been prolifically bad at conceding.
Oh, 100%. I mean, we started off the season kind of talking about the fact that we didn't have much attacking firepower, but that we were building out of the back, and that this was going to be a strong defensive team, and we may not get a lot of results, but we'd grind out some wins simply by having a solid defense. And of course, that did not happen. We've been seeing, goals 7 against us, 6 against us, 5 against us. I don't know. I mean, they just roll in like football games at sometimes, but it's significant for sure, right? To get a clean sheet. I think it's good for the defenders. I think it's good for the keepers who are the defenders as well. But I think the mentality of that, I think it's good for the whole team. But to be fair, right, there was only one shot on goal. TD did make a great save. I 100% have to give him that. Some of the reasons that there weren't shots on goal was that defenders blocked balls. So they also did their part. It's not like the Montreal never really took anything significant. There was also other work that was being done. But really, I mean, they had 17 shots, but there wasn't a high degree of accuracy to what Montreal was doing. A lot of crosses as well, not very successful. So it was not a good game for Montreal, which was good for us.
Yeah.
And to add on to what Bill just said, I agree. It wasn't a good game for Montreal. However, there was a couple moments where I felt like they got themselves in good position, and we would not fare so well against Atlanta or maybe even Chicago if the next game. I think the gods aligned on this night for just, for us for some reason. So, I mean, it was good for the guys' mentality to win, get the clean sheet. Good for the fans. I think that's what Ron was shooting for. But it was definitely not a good game.
Yeah. What did you make of the red card for Wasson there late in the match? Seeing the replay, I don't know. Not a lot of contact there. Harsh second yellow, Ken, for you?
That play, it was definitely not a foul. I think that was probably more of a accumulation of the way the game went, and there was a lot of contact. Waston got away with a few things here and there, and I don't know all the Montreal players, but they got away with a lot of stuff, and I think the ref was just like finally pulled out another yellow card. That was just a terror. I don't know if FCC will go and try and get it overturned. I don't think they can necessarily. I think it's only a red you can challenge, straight red.
No,
But
I'm not 100% sure on that. I mean, just because the yellow led to the red. I know there was an issue in the past. Of course, it was USL, but I think the rules are similar. But where there was 2 yellows on a player, and the first yellow was the one they wanted to contest, and they weren't allowed to contest the first yellow. They were only allowed to contest the second one that led to the red, so they let it go. But I think the problem is you get into the fact that in general leagues are not going to challenge referees. I mean, if they make a blatantly wrong call, for sure, but on a decision or a what do you call it, a
subjective call.
subjective call, like, is this violent enough, or was this a foul or whatever, they're not going to question that. It's got to be a misapplication of the rules, really.
The only thing I can see, I didn't see where Waston made true contact with him. It was like total cluster, and Waston and who did he run into? Bertoni. Those two collided.
Yeah, I think there was a little contact there, but it felt soft to me too. The first yellow, I think was valid.
Yes.
So he got his money's worth.
Yeah. But you're probably right, Ken. It was probably accumulation. I mean, the game was definitely getting chippy on both sides. There were some moments here and there where the referee probably could have made some additional calls to settle things down. He chose not to. Why at that moment, I don't know, but whatever.
So, Chris, knowing what you know now, if you had to give up the Wasson red card if it meant an FC Cincinnati victory, are you switching? I think the answer is pretty clear there, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You take the win.
I'm taking the win. Yeah, but I mean, just kind of go back quickly on on what Bill and Ken said. Yeah, I think it was just an accumulation. The referee, he kind of had to do something at that point, and unfortunately, Waston was the one who had to take the fall for it. But he seemed a little shocked too. Like if you watch it on TV, he seemed a little stunned he was being sent off. But again, after a while, in a match like that where it's physical, both sides, things like that are going to happen, unfortunately.
So as of right now, Wasson will miss the next match against Land United this week, midweek here at Nippert Stadium, unless somehow it gets overturned, which I believe MLS allows for a certain amount of appeals throughout the season. I don't believe. I mean, not that I'm not aware of any other appeals that FC Cincinnati have filed this year. That doesn't mean that they haven't. But we'll see. Maybe it gets rescinded. But as Ken said, I highly doubt it, because you're right. The league rarely goes back on their officials. Although we have seen a couple instances this year from the league doing that. But we shall
Zlatan.
right. Yeah, Zlatan doesn't get cards. What are you talking about, Ken? Let's talk a little bit about the tactics side of things, though, right? Rather than the high press, Jan's changed some things, and it seemed to have worked, right, Bill? I mean, I think we've kind of hit on it all year long that, and even Jan's has, in his short time in Cincinnati, that unless you're preparing in the offseason for high press, you can't really implement it midway through the year. And realizing after a few matches that his philosophy or his style is not exactly working at the moment, might be leading to more goals. He changed things up a little bit, and I'm sure that the early goal helped. I'd be curious to know what your thoughts are on, had that goal not occurred, would we still have seen FC Cincinnati bunker a little bit?
Well, I think 100% we would have seen him bunker. I think it was Joe Zhao who said at the end of the game in his victory speech or whatever we followed a plan, and we executed the plan, and we won the game. So it was for sure the plan, right? I think you hit on the head on the nail on the head, right? When you said that if you don't plan for this in preseason, doing a high press is a challenge. Obviously, Alan Koch, our coach going into this season, was not a high press coach, right? That was never his style. We've never seen that. He was definitely a bunker, counter, cross it into usually a very large number 9, who tended to be a little bit of an island up there by himself a lot. That's an extremely different style than what we started playing under Johan. I think when the club kind of decided they were probably going with the way of Ron Jans, and started pushing towards this high press 4-3-3 style. And, the personnel, I think, just isn't there, right? I mean, it's not to say that the people that we have on this team aren't good. It's just to say that that's not what they learned. It's not what they physically prepared for in the off season. It's not the tactics that they worked on going into this season. And now you've got the airplane in the air, and you're saying, well, instead of a prop plane, let's turn this into a jet. That's a little bit hard to do midway through. And, I think, you got physical issues, you've got styles of play, you've got personnel issues. And yeah, Ken brought this up a little bit about looking forward and how important is it to think about the future. My take on that is, yes, I like that possession game. I like that press game much, much better. I think it's much more fun to watch. But I think that to get beat dramatically game in, game out wears on everyone. Mentality of the team is weak because of that. And here comes the big catch, right? Yes, we need to prepare. Let's say there's 5 guys on this team that we want to keep, right? That we think these are high press guys that we want to have next year that can play this game the way we want to play it. We may not be able to keep them because they may just get sick of being on this team and losing, and they might be looking out the door, right? And once you lose those guys that you think you're going to keep, you're starting over from scratch, and we can't do that. So we got to do enough to keep people feeling okay about this club that they want to stay here. And I think that's a little bit of what this is. Let's get the team feeling good about itself and make sure that the players we want to keep have a positive attitude towards next year.
Rob in the chat room says, didn't help that we way overspent for a guy just because he's from Cincy. Okay. Ken, a follow-up to that and what Bill had to say?
Yeah, I mean, everything Bill said's fair. I don't know the answer. I mean, tactics-wise, I'll tell you the one guy who was happy was Darren Maddox. This is his game. This is his style. He wants to run away from everybody, which is totally not Ron Jan's style. And it was built for him. And that's just my personal take. And I'm not saying like not built for everybody else. Just it is what we were built for, was this straight up counter attacking style. I just question whether, like Bill says, it's not fun or easy to watch. And I don't really know what to say. To be honest, I don't know what to say, because I think Bill said it perfectly. It's there. We did this to make the players happy and get some confidence back. I wish we knew who we had on multi-year contracts, because then we could know like who we think can fit and what pieces fit where. And I love seeing Bertoni and Amaya and God, who else? And Cruz, all 3 of those on the field together. I think we've seen that maybe once this year, other time. I mean, I'm just throwing that out there. Those are the 3 best ball handling central midfielders we have. Bertoni's weak defensively. He lets things up, but I think that's also what played into the tactics of let's bunker. It keeps Bertoni kind of locked back a little bit, but we don't look good going forward. However, the other stat that Bill brought up, that we gave up 17 shots. What did I see? Montreal had 3 big chances. FCC had 3 big chances as well. Maddox should have had a header. I mean, plain as day header easily. And Joe Jow, I'm not saying he should have scored. If he would have just taken a hair of a second longer just to make it a little more accurate, those are those are valid scoring opportunities that we had. So I can't complain that it didn't create effective chances. It's just not an appealing game to watch. That's all.
Yeah. But Desmond had a couple opportunities as well. So I think Bush would have got the first one when he was trying to tuck it in the near post, but that far post curler that just went outside, in the past we've seen him put those in.
Oh, that's right. The volley.
Yep.
Nonetheless, FC Cincinnati gets the win. 3 points, right? With the win.
Much needed.
Much needed win. And some results around the league did mean that, unfortunately, that FC Cincinnati has clinched last place in the Eastern Conference. They still, believe it or not, have a chance to catch the Vancouver Whitecaps. They're on 30 points. FC Cincinnati are on 21. The best FC Cincinnati can do at this point is 33, right? So as long as Vancouver keeps losing, which they continue to do in the Western Conference, maybe the wooden spoon doesn't end up in Cincinnati. However, with that said, pretty much the rest of the way out, FC Cincinnati has to play perfect soccer. And that's going to be tough with teams like Atlanta, Orlando, and DC United coming up on the upcoming slate. So we will enjoy this win while we can, fans of FCC, because it has been so long. Maybe they'll get some results that they can go their way the rest of the season. But we'd love to know your thoughts on this match. Get in touch with us, feedback at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. All right, it's that time of the show where we give a big shout-out and thanks to our tremendous supporters. We cannot thank you enough for your support. To learn more on how you can support the show, head on over to CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/support. Our thanks to King's Hammer and Tim Bronsel, Matt Adamczyk, Brian Malone, Jamie Smed, Jonas Tom, Jack Emery, Mike Bowman, Kathleen Francis, Teresa Everidge, Matt Imholt, Matthew Long, Joe Coling, and Tara Mullins. Thank you so much for supporting us here at Cincinnati Soccer Talk. We really do appreciate everything that you do for our show and for our website. Again, that website, CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/support, is where you can get involved in supporting the show, get involved in the Growler Cup, and much more. So again, CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/support. All right. Next up here on the agenda this evening, let's talk a little bit about Atlanta United, shall we? Currently in third place in the Eastern Conference, and of course we know all about their attacking threats. Joseph Martinez, reigning MLS MVP, has got the goal-scoring record currently, although who knows with the way teams out west are scoring goals, maybe it gets surpassed. But Atlanta United had their struggles earlier in the year, right, gents? There was talk of firing their manager just like FC Cincinnati did. And this is a guy in Frank de Boer who has had success over in the Netherlands, not so much in the Premier League and in Italy, but he's a world-renowned coach, right? But even their fans have been quite upset with how they've played this season. It's a Dutch style. And by the way, 2 Dutch coaches facing off for the first time in Major League Soccer history this week. That's a pretty cool feat in itself. So, Chris, we'll start with you. You're a big fan of Ajax. You're a big fan of that Dutch style. What's going on with Atlanta? Why are they sitting in third place in the Eastern Conference?
Inconsistency. That's been it. At one point, just a couple of weeks ago, they were in first place in the conference, and now they sit 9 points behind New York City, who have completely just taken off. At home, Atlanta right now, they're 10-2-3 at home. So obviously they're still using that, that home field advantage at Mercedes-Benz, but on the road, they're 5-9-1. And like you were saying, Subs, Frank de Boer was really, heavily scrutinized, right at the beginning of the year. P.T. Martinez, who was the reigning South American Player of the Year from River Plate, it took him a while to kind of get his footing. He's picked it up. Ezekiel Barco has picked it up. Obviously, you know what you're going to get from Joseph Martinez. Joseph Martinez he's Joseph Martinez. And right now, like you said, still currently, holds the goal scoring record, but Carlos Vela and Zlatan are certainly, have other thoughts, but it's just been kind of the personnel that Atlanta had, to what Frank de Boer was looking at. And, it's kind of seems like they've, kind of got it, going now, but last couple of results, they've, stunningly, dropped a few. And again, it's kind of cost them because now they've fallen back, into third place, and they're just 3 points ahead of Toronto and DC United for that fourth spot. So basically, they're looking to host the playoff game. They're still in that battle, but they have clinched a playoff spot though.
Yeah, and again, this is the one match earlier in the year, Bill, where FC Cincinnati was able to rally to gain a point from a losing position, down 1-0 late in the match. Roland Lamar getting the goal to make it 1-1 there at the Benz. Again, two different teams then. You can really say two different teams now, though.
Oh, for sure. I think I would add, though, interestingly enough, I don't really expect us to win this game, but I do think it's interesting that the last time we played them, as I remember, I think, wasn't it a midweek game?
It was a weekend game for sure.
Was it a weekend game? Okay.
Joe was down there and Rob was there.
Well, maybe it was the fact that they were playing Champions League.
Yep.
So they had fixture congestion going on. I know there was a lot of question about the players that they were going to roll out there, whether they were going to try to do a second string against us. I think they rolled out their big guys, but I think there was some fatigue going on. I think the inconsistency we're seeing with them has to do with fixture congestion. It's a typical MLS punishment for success. Right. Once you do well in the MLS, then you end up in the CONCACAF Champions League, or you end up in doing well in the Open Cup, for instance, in this case, where, they ran all the way up to Minnesota, just beat Minnesota in the Open Cup. They had another game, Champions Cup or whatever.
The Champions, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, they've been in 3 other things beside MLS. There was 7 games that they won in a row, but they did them all within like 4 weeks. So coming off of that, they've lost their next 2. So for sure, I think, they're a little beat up and tired, probably starting to get caught up on that though. And of course, we're coming off of a weekend game, so who knows? We'll see. I mean, it's been a lot of fixture congestion for them. Might give us another chance to at least not get beat too badly by them. And if we can, hold solid like we did for this last game, who knows?
But again, as you mentioned, Joseph Martinez. He's
Yes.
pretty darn good, Ken. And I believe at one point, I haven't checked on this, I believe he scored in 13 consecutive matches for Atlanta. I don't know if that has been snapped recently. It probably has, knowing that I did not research it like I should have. But then again, I'm not Boston and Brad, who host March to Match Day. Again, he's still a pretty darn good goal scorer. And, now you got Waston out this week, or for this match, I should say. They need to be on their P's and Q's.
It's kind of funny in my head. I sit there and go, is losing Waston in this game a bad thing? And I know people are shooting at me, but there's kind of a part of me that likes Garza and Gutman and Vanderwerf only from the speed factor, just because Waston's game is not going to be to stay with that. Now we're probably going to we would have bunkered with Waston, so I get that speed part would have been probably neutralized a little bit from that aspect. But the guy I think that FCC has to watch out for if he plays is Darlington Nagbe. He's really turned it around in the last, and I say turned it around. I don't ever think he really lost it. I just think the last 4 months, three months or whatever, he's really come into his own, and I really don't know why he isn't even getting some looks on the national team, to be honest. So I think he's the guy that we really need to watch out for, because he unlocks a lot of their offense going forward, even Pitti and Joseph. So I don't predict a victory either as well. So
Chris, you were shaking your head there.
I was going to say, well, real quick, from what I heard, Darlington Nagbe I've heard a rumor, but I heard he did not want to play for the U.S. Like, he was kind of done playing. But I don't know how. Obviously, rumors are rumors. But going back to Atlanta United, though, they've already won. They've won 2 pieces of silverware already. The Campeones Cup, where they beat Club America, and then obviously the U.S. Open Cup. So they're really going for their third trophy this season. So, they do have a lot, even though they have dropped back in the standings, they still have a lot to play for. That I the victory over Club America in that Campeones Cup was just massive. I mean, that really, with a piece of silver on the line, an MLS club comes out there and beats one of the best Mexican clubs in terms of, history and everything like that. I mean, and that was a great game. So, that right there kind of gave them confidence moving forward. But now, again, you're looking at another piece of silverware that they can get in a back-to-back MLS Cup championship. I mean, these guys they're motivated. So that's another thing to watch out for as we close out the last couple matches of this season.
Obviously, we've mentioned some of the stars for Atlanta United, but there are some names from an FC Cincinnati perspective, Bill. We mentioned Waston out, but the injuries are starting to creep up for the Orange and Blue.
Yeah, that Montreal game was pretty physical, and unfortunately, it cost us more than just Waston and the double yellow card. Obviously, we saw Cruz take a blow to the head, pretty massive one actually. It looked fairly nasty as they replayed it over and over again for us to look at. But they took him immediately to the dressing room. There didn't seem to be any real decision on is he fit to play. They just called it immediately. That, if anything, I would say that's a positive. If they actually walked him through a concussion protocol and pulled him off the field, that's actually worse than just simply taking them to the locker room and looking later. But my guess is he's listed as questionable for this game. I don't see him starting for sure, and I would guess he's out just from a safety standpoint, being smart. And then the other one was Maddox, and that's a pretty big blow, as Ken said. When we're doing a bunker counter, Maddox has got some speed. He definitely likes to press and get those kind of sneaky goals when he's around the keeper and whatever. So to see him go down and literally be carried off the field, and then even at the end of the game, he wasn't standing and walking around; he was still sitting. I think that's a blow. The only whatever you want to call it, not really a positive to it, but the only nice thing is that Mane comes back from that double suspension from his red card. And hopefully maybe he can provide some of that speed up top that we'll lose from probably not having Maddox available.
Yeah, that's kind of a big blow. Obviously, we know Fernando Adi, hot topic here on the show over the past few months. Ken, most likely not going to be available. Continues to deal with injuries and whatnot. So you're looking at Mane or Daly up top, and Daly isn't exactly your counter attack type striker either.
No, I you have to go with Mane. That's just my personal thought. I think, as coach has pointed out, you put him into 9, and you play him as more as a false 9 in between the lines, and maybe he can distribute out to Joe Zhao and Lama or Manu, one of those guys out wide, and bring some people back in the game. I hope Cruz can come back because I think his defensive work rate is totally kind of overlooked by a lot of people. He's a nuisance, and I love that about him. So if he's not in the game, Amaya, I think, will fill that kind of that same role. But I think we need Cruz, Mane, and Amaya sort of all as that triangle in the middle, and with the wingers shooting up the side.
Don't let him fool you, folks. Ken Hetker is the president of the Alan Cruz fan club. Of course, he's going to say he wants him to come back.
Send me your money to join the club.
And Ken's the only member that has a Cruz jersey without the A on it, and he is very quick to point that out.
Yes, I am. Unfortunately.
Yeah, so it's going to be a tough task, right? For our Omni Printing and Promotions Growler Cup folks this week participating in the finals, they've got a tall task, right? A lot of folks over the weekend, and we'll get to I guess we could talk about that a little bit, Bill. A lot of folks had FC Cincinnati winning over Montreal, which was surprising to me.
That's why they're the experts, right? I mean, we got our 12 best Growler Cup people in there, and 25% of them actually figured out that this was the game that FCC was going to win. So good for them. We did have one person pick a draw as well, so they weren't too far off either. Nobody actually got the score right, so nobody got 6 points, but we did have 3 people pull up 4 points without scrolling down in my recap here. I know it was Matt Long, Joe Collier, and
Patrick Lonnie.
Thank you. I was trying to think who was the third person, Patrick. So those 3 did get the 4 points. Good for them. Joe and Matt were sitting in first and second place last week, and they continue to sit in first and second place this week.
So again, to learn more on the Omni Printing and Promotions Growler Cup, head on over to our website, CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/Growler Cup. Get entered and support the show at the $5 a month level. You can play along with the so-called experts here at Cincinnati Soccer Talk next season. It's been a lot of fun this year. Thanks to everybody who participated, and big thanks to Omni Printing and Promotions as well for their support of the Growler Cup. Anybody want to make predictions? Anybody want to make a scoreline prediction for the Atlanta match this week, Chris? Anybody? Nobody?
I can tell you what the expected scoreline says.
What is the XG going to be?
Based on recent results, it's 2.95 to 1.05 Atlanta. So basically 1 to 3. If you take the season stats, it's 2.3 to 0.9. So 2 to 1. So there's your expected score lines.
That
I was
seems
3 to
low.
1. That's what I was thinking. I was going to say 3-0, but yeah, it does seem a little low though.
Who's going to score?
Yeah, that was my thought. We have nobody.
Yeah. All right, so Chris is going for 3-0. What about you, Bill?
I think I'm going to say a 1-2 loss.
Okay.
So I'm going to go with the nicer XG there for the season. But I feel like, both teams are coming off of weekend games. There's going to be some fatigue. This is not going to be quite as exciting a game as we'd like, or we might like, but they may not like. So
Bill's going for a 2-1, which means Manu's going to score from the penalty spot. That's all.
Very, very possible.
Ken, how about you?
I am exactly on the same thought as Bill. It's 2-1 Atlanta. I think they may rest Joseph, and he might be on the bench. He might be on the bench to come in if for some reason have a draw with us, or they're down by a goal. He come in the 60th, 70th minute to maybe try and create something. So I think they rest their guys.
That's an interesting dilemma to have, right? Especially for Atlanta, because they're trying to still hold on to that spot to host a playoff game, right? As of right now, they're starting to slide down that table a little bit.
Interesting is the wrong word. That's a nice dilemma to have. We can't even have that dilemma. So interesting is the wrong word. I'm jealous of them. It'd be nice to have.
We have dilemmas, just the other ones.
Yeah, we have dilemmas.
Well played, Ken. Oh, man. So they're going for, you both said 2-1. Chris said 3-0. I'm going to go big. I'll say 5-0.
Oh,
I know.
You think we can beat them 5-0?
No.
Soup says we're going to win 5-0. Okay. Write it down.
You heard it here first.
Of course, if they do, I'll say that. Yeah, that's what I meant. No, I think after the clean sheet, maybe things come back down to earth. Because, again, you're looking at Van der Werf and Garza playing center back again?
I think Garza. Garza.
And if that's the case, and you're Frank de Boer, aren't you saying, Joseph, go on, right? I mean, you kind of need a 3-point. You need to guarantee 3 points here.
Do you think we sit back and bunker though? Without Waston, you almost throw that sort of. We play a little more defensive. We'll probably play a midfield block more so than a deep bunker, as far as I'm concerned, because you don't want Garza exposed from a height perspective or in the air. So you want him to be able to at least play to his strength, which is a little more speed too. So I think. I mean, like I said, I kind of am interested in seeing Garza and and Gutman playing again, possibly.
Yeah, I'm thinking from a midfield standpoint, right? We got to do something about Cruz, right? Because Cruz is probably out for this game, is my assumption. And who do you put in that place? You have choices like McCabe and you have Alache. So which one of those is more defensive? And my guess is, whoever's the more defensive minded player might be the one who actually goes in.
I love Alache, and I say love that. I mean, that's very strong, but I like what he brings to the table as far as energy and getting things going. He may not be the most technical sound, but I do like him, what he's done. So he's a guy I actually think the team should keep.
He's willing to get a little physical, and he might be a good fit for that, kind of like a double pivot in the back, kind of protect Garza a little bit.
Yep.
Well, the question is, can FC Cincinnati just deploy like a 4-6 formation? Just put them all in the 18 and make it tough.
How about just a 5-5?
Yeah. It should be a fun one though. This week, midweek, FC Cincinnati hosting Atlanta United for the first time in Major League Soccer. So that's our own little mini version of March to Match Day. Make sure you get subscribed to the Cincinnati Soccer Talk podcast so you don't miss a single episode of CST. Boston and Brad will be catching up with the folks at Spitting Fire tomorrow evening, available to download on Wednesday as they preview the Chicago Fire match this weekend. All right, let's wrap things up here on the show and talk a little bit about the Major League Soccer regular season coming to a close. It's one of those things where, gents, to be honest, with the season going the way it's going, I haven't looked at the standings one bit because it's pretty depressing, right? Seeing the FC Cincinnati at the bottom of the Eastern Conference. With that said, having looked at the standings recently, a couple of teams kind of raised my eyebrows a little bit. So I'll start with you, Chris. What's one of those teams in Major League Soccer where you look at the standings and you go, whoa, really? Or maybe you're surprised that they're as high as they are?
Plain and simple, the San Jose Earthquakes. I think right now they currently sit in sixth place in the Western Conference. They're literally the Western Conference, behind LAFC is so close. I mean, it's tight. From the second place all the way to eighth place is separated by 6 points. But the San Jose Earthquakes, with Matias Almeida, who came over from Chivas de la Guadalajara, he's got them playing, pretty darn well. I mean, he was hired on in October of last year, and there was a lot of expectations, with him coming over from Chivas, but stunningly, the Quakes, you never think of them as being, a really solid team because they've seemingly been at the basement of the Western Conference the last couple of seasons. But at Avaya Stadium, they're 10-3-2. Now away, they are 3-9-3. So that's obviously a lot better at home than they are on the road. But to me, it's San Jose. Sixth place. They're in the playoffs right now. And Matias Almeida, like I said, there's talk I've heard, of him possibly leaving and going back to Mexico. But, for what he's done right now with San Jose, you can't. To me, it's just wow. It's an impressive job.
It's a solid choice right there. Can't argue with that one. What about you, Ken?
Is it just straight up surprises or like who's surprisingly doing well?
Either one. Teams that are doing worse than you thought they would, or teams that are doing better than you thought they would.
Okay, the two. I guess I'll do one of each. Minnesota United doing as well as they are. I agree. San Jose is definitely stolen, some of that limelight. But Minnesota is, I think, a top 3 team, top 4 team in the West for sure. So what they've done gives me hope, maybe. So surprisingly, they're that team that has done something. As far as letdown, Kansas City. They never got off the launch pad. They just sat there and burned, so to speak. Not as bad as we did, but they just couldn't get anything going. They definitely have talent, and I think they will resurrect themselves next year. But this year, totally, they've been a disappointment.
Huge disappointment. I mean, I had them winning MLS Cup in my preseason pick.
Me too. Don't remind me.
Yeah, so to see them
Yeah.
sitting ninth in the Western Conference, and for a team coached by Peter Vermees, who usually you don't see that, right? I mean, he's been historically pretty good in Major League Soccer. That was a big surprise for me. So I agree with you there, Ken. How about you, Bill? Anybody stand out to you?
Yeah, I think my big surprise has just been Columbus, to be honest. I mean, they had a pretty solid season last year. Not a lot of changes aside from the coach, but to see them change coaches, lose their DP, and then just completely crumble. It's been kind of surprising to watch how badly they've done this year. Kind of goes to show you that it doesn't take much to make a big significant change like that. I kind of expected them to, probably dip a little bit with some of the change going on. And obviously, when you don't make a lot of change, you typically aren't going to do quite as well the next year. Players get a little older, et cetera. But yeah, I was shocked that they've just not been able to find their way back. And Porter's obviously a tried and proven coach, so it's not like they have a bad coach. And for whatever reason, they just haven't been able to make it happen.
I would disagree. I think they'd had a lot of changes. They weren't even going to be a team, and now they stuck around.
But
I
that
will
was
say,
going on last year, right? I
Right.
mean, that's my thing. So they made it through Save the Crew and all that stuff with all the controversy going on around them, with fans not showing up and all the controversy about some pretty brutal things being said by Precourt and Garber and others about the fans and the corporate base there and the support for the team, and the team just kept churning through and doing well last season. And so I thought with all of that going on, they would come out pretty well this season. And then, man, it's just I think obviously Nguyen is probably the key for them. I think they built
Huge
their team
loss.
around him, and they just have not found anybody to fill that spot. I mean, they had Scalado years back. They got really lucky, I think, when he retired, and obviously is now coaching LA, but or the Galaxy. I got to be more clear nowadays. You can't just say LA, but he's coaching the Galaxy, and they found Nguyen basically filling that same role. They obviously have not found that person this year. So.
Yeah, and not only did they lose Higuain, they lose Zach Steffen midway through the year to what I guess you can say Manchester City, who then loaned him out to a team over in Germany.
Yeah.
So that was,
That's
and again,
true.
I
Forgot about him.
And he's not going to be the lone reason why they are as bad as they are in the table. So that's a solid pick too. You're right though, because the last few years they've been, up there in the Eastern Conference, knocked off Atlanta a couple years in the playoffs. Yeah. We're that close last year and got a deep little run there too. So yeah, I'd agree with you there. Ken kind of stole my my Kansas City one, but I'm going to go one further. I'm surprised at New York City FC being at the top of the Eastern Conference. I don't know. There's like, for me, there's just they score a lot of goals, right? I go back to the years when they had David Villa, and just could never really put it together, or at least they'd get to that spot in the playoffs, and that second leg would always get to them. But for me, like to look and see, I went into the show thinking, oh yeah, Atlanta's top of the Eastern Conference, right? And I look, wait, what? Because again, I've had no need to look at the standings all year because FC Cincinnati being where they were. So for me, I'm surprised in New York City being there at the top of the Eastern Conference, gents. Your thoughts on that?
I don't know.
Hot
when
take.
they put 7 goals up on us, I kind of tagged them as a pretty good team.
Yeah, but I mean, come on. They weren't the only ones who did it.
No, they weren't. This is fair.
Go ahead. You had a hot take, Ken?
I was just going to say hot take. Atlanta's the third best team in the East. I'd say New York City FC and Philly are the top two for sure. I say for sure. I shouldn't say for sure.
I could see Atlanta catching Philly.
I can too, but I think Philly. I think let me just go back. New York City plays one of the best games as far as they are so flexible on what they can do, which makes them. They're not great at any one thing. They're good at everything, and you watch them and They can play counter. They can play straight up and possess, and they can press enough. They have that ugly field where everybody's going to have to go play. So I think they're obviously the favorite to come out of the East now, but I think they're a lot better than what people think at this point. What Subes even thinks, because I'm saying that just because you're like surprised. I'm surprised too. They finished there. They've been impressive to watch when you get to watch them.
They definitely have.
Yeah. So, love to hear your thoughts. So, well, what teams have surprised you in Major League Soccer this season? Email us at feedback@CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. Lots of teams. I mean, as we continue to add more and more teams to this league, we're going to have more and more surprises through the years, especially with the salary cap and whatnot. And who knows what may happen this offseason with labor agreements and whatnot. So stay tuned to Cincinnati Soccer Talk for the latest. All right, let's start to wrap things up here on the show. It's been a blast here this Monday evening. Thank you to everybody who tuned in live and watched us on Facebook and Twitter and YouTube. We really appreciate you spending a few moments with us here this evening. Chris Asbrock, glad to have you back, man. Any final thoughts as we get out of here?
No, not much. I mean, it's still, to me, it's still surreal, looking at, the teams that are coming in, like the defending MLS Cup champs, are, they're coming into Nippert, in 2 nights. Still, it's something that's really cool to experience. I mean, I know it's been a rough season, for us. Obviously, it's been brutal in some aspects, but some of the guys we've got a chance to see, with obviously Wayne Rooney leaving and going back to England at the end of the season. Wayne Rooney was here at Nippert Stadium playing, and it's just, I kind of sit back, and as rough as this season's been, it's still nice to take a deep breath and kind of soak it all in of what kind of season this was. It was unique. Let's put it that way. It's been a unique season so far for us. And, it just makes, nights like last Saturday night against Montreal just that much more special, getting a victory. And it's, we're lucky that we have a club here in Cincinnati that we can watch and go to every, whenever they're home and just enjoy it. I know it's not much, but it's, it's still a lot of fun to just sit back and think and just say, man, this is nice.
It is nice, and I'm glad you brought up Wayne Rooney. Of course, Zlatan came to Cincinnati this summer.
And, how can I forget? I mean, you can't forget Zlatan.
Of course, he forgot his scoring boots that night because apparently he's the only FC Cincinnati is the only team he's not scoring against. Had a hat trick last night against Sporting. Man, that game that was high score. Hey, at least FC Cincinnati is not the only team that concedes 7 goals this year. Chris, as always, appreciate you being on the show, buddy.
Thanks, Subes. I appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Final thoughts from Ken Hetker. Ken?
Let's see. I've got a hoarse voice. I went to Montreal, so and I know that's already been stated, but my point is to all of our fans, we have had a horrible season. Horrible season. I had the most fun in Montreal, and my point is if you get the chance, travel, see the team, experience a different culture or a different city. I know everybody, we were talking about this. People are in our little group. We all want to see Portland. We all want to. I want to see Portland because of the fans. I want to see LAFC because of the 35-52 or whatever they're called. I can't remember what they're
32-52.
32-52. I want to see that, but go out and experience the world a little bit through your love of the team, through your love of the game. It's amazing, and you meet new people. I met Matt Hayes, who lives in Grand Rapids, who's an FCC fan, and he went all the way to Montreal to watch that game, him and his wife, and we had a great time sitting in the stands, chanting and laughing. And I'll say this about Montreal: if you're a foodie, go to Montreal. It's the best food in probably all the MLS cities. So, and you get a little European feel, and everybody can still speak English, so you don't feel so awkward up there. Highly recommend going next year for anybody who's listening and thinking about it. So, my point: go support the team. It's fun to hang out with your fellow fans. It's a bonding moment, so to speak, and it's always a good time because relating it back to American football and the Bengals, and you don't have that kind of relationship in the stands. When you go, the Montreal fans turned around and clapped us. I mean, they clapped at us like congratulations as we were coming down. Some of them were, you guys still stink a little bit, but a little bit of banter. But hey, it's not as violent or distasteful, I guess, as some of our sporting experiences. So all I'm saying is travel and enjoy it if you can.
They got a lot of nerve. They didn't beat us once this year.
Clean sweep, baby.
How has that got to feel, right? The only team that like literally couldn't beat us.
Right.
It's funny you say that. They're doing their little post game, like they're.
I guess Portland couldn't beat us either.
They're Alex Steck. They had their like announcers on the corner of the field, and me and Dave Sherman ran down to the front, and we're like, 2-0, baby, against you, 2-0, 6 wins, and 2 of them. And somebody turns around to us and goes, "Don't say that too loud. We feel very bad right now." and their guys that were doing their show were clapping at us like, "Congratulations."
Excellent point, though, about traveling, Ken, and glad you were able to make the trip, and glad to know that your voice survived an hour with us here on CST, buddy. Appreciate you being on the show.
Au revoir.
Au revoir, that's right. And the final thoughts this week from the Wolfman, Bill Wolf. Bill, what do you got for us?
Oh, I'll add a little bit to Ken and then go off on mine. But for sure the travel thing is good. But if you show up for 17 games a year and sit in Nippert Stadium, you're going to have a good time. I mean, soccer's fun. It's a great environment. If you do more, you're going to have exponentially more fun. If you travel, you get more connected to other fans and the team. Go paint a tifo. Go join the march. I mean, there's so many other things you can do with this club. Show up at a watch party, whatever. Just get more involved and truly benefit from the wonderful fan base we have. And I think you'll experience a much more rewarding situation out of it. So great point, Ken. And then I would say my closing thoughts are. Obviously the weekend before, the FCC Academy actually kicked off, right? And we talked about that in the previous podcast. So we've got some young homegrown talent finally in the queue. I don't know whether any of these kids will one day play for us, but they're certainly on the right path to potentially do that. And it's exciting to think about and to see. Coming up this weekend, they have a doubleheader, so there'll be 2 more games from both those teams to see what these kids are capable of. And it's just fun to think about. One of these might be the next Frankie Amaya. So let's kind of get behind these guys, pay a little attention, and start to think about the future. Yeah, it's not been a great season, but the future is bright.
Who do they got, Bill?
Who are they playing?
Yeah.
They're going to play on Saturday, Chicago Fire, and then on Sunday, Indiana Fire.
Oh,
so
cool.
both fire academies, but obviously 2 different locations.
Awesome. Of course, we'll do our best to keep you updated about the academy. Bill's graciously kind of taking the lead on that. We're excited about that, Bill. So we'll have the latest academy updates over at our website at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. And as always, Bill, thank you so much for being on the show, bud.
Always a great time. Great to be here.
Yeah. My final thoughts this weekend, I had the pleasure of hanging out in Columbus, Ohio, which meant I got some Skyline chili. I got my fill of La Rosa's pizza, which the cast members this week on the show will tell me that is overrated pizza. Well, when you don't get to have it as often as I have it, it's not overrated. So I did get to enjoy that. I was hanging out in Columbus at the Ohio Premier Tournament. And it was pretty cool to see all the FC Cincinnati gear walking around. A lot of FC Cincinnati license plates in the parking lot where we stayed. A lot of Cincinnati United stickers on cars where we stayed. I know King's Hammer was there as well. It's a really great tournament. And there was at one point on the day, Sunday, I literally walked past Caleb Porter, head coach of the Columbus Crew. So that was kind of unique. I believe he had a kid playing in a tournament this weekend. But Ohio Premier was fun. Yeah, I'd love to be able to, back in my day when I used to coach teams, we came down to Cincinnati and participated in the King's Hammer tournament there. I think it was the Crown Challenge back a couple Mays ago. It's a lot of fun. And more importantly, it was great being in the Columbus area and seeing so much orange and blue. I saw more orange and blue than I did Crew stuff, which tells you a lot. So pretty cool stuff. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of Cincinnati Soccer Talk. My thanks to Ken Hetker, Bill Wolf, and Chris Asbrock. I'm Subs, reminding you to watch your tackles, and we'll see you all next week.